Hello and welcome to the Collapse Experiment. I have not seen an economy this stupid since 2008. Let's be real. 2008 was like when we hit peak stupidity for how things were being run in the country at that time. Because I bought my first house in, I think it was 2005, for way more than I knew it was worth. But everybody kept saying, like, no, that's the market now, and the interest rates are so low, and this is such a good price. And I'm like, I remember stuff in this neighborhood being a lot cheaper not that long ago. Didn't make any sense to me. It feels like we're living it all over again. Anybody else feel that way? So, for example, the house I live in right now. We bought it back in 2020. Non-traditional house, came with some land. Realtor wasn't even really sure as to like how much he should put it on the market for. And if you go over to Zillow, apparently according to Zillow, just by living in it for just under 5 years, it's almost doubled in price. Doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me. I was listening to the radio last night and they were talking about the housing crisis in Canada. Now they kept talking about Toronto. Like it's the only city that exists in Canada, apparently. They have more landmass than the United States, but it's always Toronto. If you're talking about Canada, you're talking about Toronto. And they're talking about how like even the tiniest house in Toronto, which I think was like 600 square feet, something crazy like that, didn't even have a bedroom to it, was $1.5 million price-wise. I don't know where these numbers are coming from. I'm old enough to remember the 80s, and back then there was the understanding that as interest rates go up, the actual price of the house goes down because the bank is making the money on the most of your payment at that point. If you had an interest rate of like 7-8% in the 80s, because you had high interest rates back then, you're getting like 6-7% on your savings accounts. So if you had a high interest rate on your house, on your mortgage, most of that mortgage payment was interest, which meant that the value of the house, the actual price of the house, had to go down to compensate for the interest that the person was going to be paying on it. And if you were unfortunate or fortunate enough, depending on if you're the buyer or the seller, let's say you bought a house on a land contract back in the 80s, and that dude selling the house is like, yeah, I can sell this to you for $15,000, which is about the price range of what some of my parents' rental properties were back then. No joke. You could buy a house for $15,000. Doesn't mean that's what they paid for it after all the interest and everything that they included. Yeah. Because let's see here. Depending on the interest rate, if you were to have a 30-year mortgage on a land contract, no bank, that means that the payments are going straight to the dude and he's getting the money. It's not the bank. It's the actual guy that sold the house is getting the money. And if you foreclose on a land contract, it just goes back to the person that was selling it to begin with. So he got the money, you're paying him, then he gets the property back and he gets to try to sell it again. So yeah, interest rates are going up, but house prices are still going up. Does this make any sense to anyone? And why is everybody fighting over houses in cities? The only affordable houses in cities are in the ghettos. And then you're going to have to deal with the Karens who are going to come in and say, white people shouldn't be buying in this neighborhood because that's gentrification. Trust me, I dealt with that bullshit. It's like you have one group of people who's selling you the house saying that the more people like you that move into this neighborhood, the more property values go up, and in the end, you're going to make more money. And they are so full of shit. And this is just the housing market. Cars. The average what? The F-150 is now like a $70,000. My house, not this one, but my first house didn't cost $70,000. I bought that shit for what? $65,000 was the price? And that was overpriced. You can't even get a truck for under $65,000 these days. What is happening? And that's not including the interest and the insurance that you need for full coverage, which I don't want to know. Like that's for me that'd be like 8 car payments. Seriously, it's got to be like $1,200 a month just to have a truck. This is insane. I don't understand what the hell is going on. They can't say it's a chip shortage. There's no chip shortage anymore. But they just keep jacking the price up on everything. My truck, the truck that I own, is an 89 Chevy. Full bed, 2 seat. It's not even the bucket seats. It's got the bench seat, right? I bought this thing for $1,000. And yeah, it had some issues. And I had to work on it. It was like little things here and there. Eventually, I just put a cutoff switch on the battery because something, I don't know what, I couldn't find any lights that were on, nothing. It sits there for like a week or two, battery's dead. So I just cut that shit out. All I gotta do is pop the hood, turn the battery on, sit in it, turn the ignition, it starts up every time now. And I don't use it for everyday driving. That's the other thing that gets me. A lot of the people out there, and this may be including you. I don't know. I don't know my viewers all that well, but I know people who do this and I don't understand it. So I bought my 2006 Toyota Corolla back in 2008. I haven't had a car payment in over a decade. I paid that off early because of my divorce. I just needed to like snowball all the bills. So I got that thing paid. I think I paid it off like a year and a half early, something like that. It's like I would get paid and it's like, how many car payments can I make? Ooh, that's like 2 slips out of this book. Send them in. I just kept doing that. If I had extra money, I just threw it at the car until it was paid off. And it still has less than 150,000 miles. It's a Corolla. Like, yeah, it's a little 4-door, tiny ass car. It cost me like $25 to fill the tank every week, even with this $3 a gallon BS that's going on right now. And then I see these people that they have these Dodge Rams and these Ford F-150s. And it's their everyday driving vehicle. And they're driving like 15, 20 miles one direction to go to work. And I worked with one guy at FedEx. This was back in 2021. Where I was working with him. And he was coming from way out of town. He was driving like 30 miles one way just to work at FedEx as a delivery driver. And he was talking about how like, yeah, it was $100 to fill my tank. Per week? Are you kidding? Like, I mean, that's clearly, like, even with what, if he was getting the same paychecks I was getting working at FedEx, that would be like 1/6 of his paycheck. I don't know if he was living at home. I think he had a girlfriend. I don't know the situation, but $100 a week on gas. And I don't know if his truck was paid off, if that was including the truck payment and the insurance, because this is Michigan. They required you to have insurance, which also means it's the most expensive state, if not one of the most expensive states to have car insurance in. Because after all, when the government mandates you to hand over your money to a private corporation, that's a license for them to just jack up the price. No competition. What are they fighting over? Everybody's required to have it. Oh, but there's that small chunk of your paycheck. There's one, not paycheck, there's a small part of your bill that the state requires everybody to pay for their car insurance. And that little portion goes into a fund for the state so that when somebody who doesn't have car insurance gets into an accident, the state covers their bills. I'm not making this up. It's a crime to drive without having car insurance on your vehicle, but they'll pay your bill if you don't have car insurance and get into an accident. Please help me out here. Like, I know I can't fix stupid, but this is beyond stupid. This is something else entirely. I don't know what the agenda is. I can't explain this. I have trouble understanding it. But it's there. It's true. So we hit the housing market. We've covered cars. At this point, if you're not changing what you're doing, first of all, if you're driving a truck for your everyday drive, are you hauling stuff with it? Do you need it to haul firewood to your house for the winter? Are you making side money moving furniture? Do you help out your neighbors with a refrigerator that they just purchased? Like, what is the purpose of this truck? Because if it's just driving you from point A to point B, you might want to just downgrade to something else. Because that's ridiculous and you're just wasting your money at that point. I'm not saying get rid of the truck. I'm just saying have the truck. I think it's like $60 a month I pay for the insurance on my truck. And it primarily just sits in the yard until I have to use it for something. Yeah. If you want to be poor, have a car payment. If you want to be a slave, have a mortgage. I don't know who's buying these houses. I'm having flashbacks to 2008 all over again. If you've watched the movie, oh crap, what's it called? The Big Short. If you've seen The Big Short, remember when they're talking to all those dancers and they're like, I've got 2 condos and 3 houses. What do you mean my payments are going to go up? We have an entirely new generation of people coming into this market that has no idea what happened almost 20 years ago. It seems like yesterday to me. I remember when 2008 happened. I remember all of it. And I still watch The Big Short at least once a year because I'm like, this is going to happen again. We've learned nothing. This is going to happen again. So I see these rising interest rates. Yeah, well, they went down recently. No. Inflation is still an issue. They're going, after Trump gets in, they're going to raise interest rates again. He's going to try to talk them down. Either they listen to him or they don't. I don't really give a crap. The problem is you either have more inflation because the interest rates go back down, or you deal with the inflation by having the interest rates go back up, and people are going to have their houses foreclosed on. This market, it doesn't make any sense. It's completely stupid. Who is getting approved for these houses? I don't know. Like, I don't know where these jobs are at, where they can look at a place and be like, $250,000? Yeah, I can pay that. What do you do for a living? It's not Breaking Bad type stuff. There's no money. That's the one thing with that show. There's actually zero money in that product from Breaking Bad. Here in Michigan, most of these crackheads are running around cooking it in 2-liter bottles and making it themselves. Like, so I don't know. I don't know where the money for all this stuff is coming from. everybody just going into an insane amounts of debt and it's going to be a Great Depression? Probably. Yeah. That's pretty much my guess. I mean, if you're complaining about how much groceries cost, I don't know how anybody's affording these houses. I don't. And then saw this other video the other day where some guy's trying to say it's cheaper to refurnish your house than to make a house payment. And I don't know where these people are buying furniture from, but furniture is not cheap either. It's unless you're getting like the really crappy, dinky, comes damaged in the box from Amazon, pressboard BS. I don't know what furniture these people are talking about. Like, of course they're buying a bunch of stuff. Everything's super cheap now. Since when? And where are they talking about, like Temu furniture? Because 2 years ago, worked delivering furniture. And it was for a place that sold Amish furniture. They had some recliners. They did like bed sets and stuff. And I worked there and I couldn't afford the furniture being sold in this store. And people were buying it all the time. And then I'm delivering it. The tips were great. It was probably one of the better jobs I've ever had, even though it was only 1 or 2 days a week. But hey, no stress. I liked the guy I was working with. We saw a bunch of cool stuff. Got to know the area pretty good. Tips. I got tips. Yeah. But, yeah, the housing market is crazy. And I know from my own experience moving here that there are reasonable places that you can get housing. You don't have to live in the city. Living in the city is so overrated. It costs you more for everything. I think our property taxes, even with 15 acres, is less than half of a house with no yard in Kalamazoo, where we moved from. And I don't know what the hell our property taxes paid for in that city. The cops stopped showing up. All they did was harass you about, like, yeah, your grass is like 5 centimeters over what it was supposed to be. Yeah, dude, it's Friday. I work Monday through Friday. Don't really have time to, come home and do that before it gets dark outside and annoy the shit on my... You couldn't wait until after the weekend when I was going to mow it on Saturday. You're giving me this $50 fine. Oh, you're going to send this company to my house every weekend to harass me, to see if they can mow my lawn and then charge me for it, because apparently this is the type of shit you deal with in the city. They won't come when you call the police to actually enforce laws that need to be enforced. I had one neighbor, Martel. That's how he said his name too, Martel. And there was one night he was throwing a party, and it was 3:30 in the morning, and I'm calling for like the 15th time. Come to find out, a couple weeks later, the local neighborhood police officer, there were so many complaints about this guy that the city ended up evicting this guy from the apartment. And that night alone, Mateo had 150 plus calls, complaints to dispatch and 911 about the shit that was going on at the house next door to me. And the cops would drive by and do nothing. Meanwhile, they can harass you about your lawn or take a picture of your garbage can that's on the curb like 12 hours later than it should be, according to them. And if you don't pay the fine, they just add it to your property taxes. And the evidence is a Polaroid with black magic marker written at the bottom as to like the date that it was allegedly took. As far as I know, they took that picture the day before when I put the trash can on the curb, and they just put the wrong date on the bottom. That's not evidence to me. It's not. So, Yeah, I was half tempted to just send them a Polaroid of a check, but I'm not Martell. I don't get a pass. No, I had a job and I paid my taxes and I didn't have a rap sheet and I didn't have a drug addiction. I'm the wrong skin color. Um, I'm attracted to women. No, they basically I'm guessing the court probably would have like had my ass picked up and taken to court for sending them a photo of a check. But no, you can keep working people up all night in the city. Nobody will do a damn thing about it and pay astronomical amounts of taxes for overpriced houses that nobody seems to give a shit about. And they love to keep the property value down, but they want to increase the property value so they can tax you more. Telling you, this economy is stupid. This whole system is stupid. The people running everything are stupid. Stupid is as stupid does. If you look at California right now, oh, firefighters are using purses. They're filling purses with water to fight the fire because Gavin Newsom sent all their equipment over to Ukraine because that's the responsibility of the state of California is another country. Keep on typing.